Hi, everybody. Hopefully, you've been here before and you're getting something out of these videos. But if this is your first time, I always tell my students this isn't going to be an Oscar-worthy performance, but I hope it will help explain the section if you just need to hear it again or if you're one of my students and you've been absent. This is a pretty big one for the Indiana standards. There's usually a lot on our state test involving proportions, and this one little section will help you with quite a great deal of those types of problems. So let's get to it. This is called the percent proportion. So we've already studied proportions. So hopefully I can just do a quick review on this of how to cross multiply and solve those. What I remember for percent proportion is over of equals percent over 100. The is, when I'm saying that, represents the part, the portion out of the whole thing. And the of is the total. I use is and of, and I know a lot of math teachers do that because typically the way the problems are worded, you'll see of something and you'll see whatever number is that percent. So those are kind of your keywords to look for. When I set this up, I always start with two blank fraction bars, equal in between, 100 on the bottom right. Every problem will start that way. I look for the percent first, just because that's what my eyes are going to gravitate to. That's the easiest thing to pick out of your problem. Then I look for the total because I can find that word of, or I can see where it's talking about the total or the full amount. That's going to be the next easiest to find. And then finally, whatever's left, that's probably going to be the part or the is. Here's what it looks like if you're missing the percent. It says 18 is what percent of 90? So I'm going to set up my two blank fraction bars, equal in the middle, 100 on the bottom right. Then I look for the percent. This time I don't know the percent. So above 100 in that percent spot in the proportion, I'm just going to put an X. Then I look for what it's out of. This says of 90. So that's the total that goes on the bottom. And 18 is how much we have. So 18 goes on top. When you solve a proportion, the one thing that'll work every single time, multiply the diagonal where you have two numbers to multiply. So I'm going to do 18 times 100 and get 1800. And then you divide by that other number that you haven't used yet. So I'm going to divide that by 90 and I get 20. On this one, I was finding a percent, so I need a percent sign. 18 is 20% of 90. Now, when you're missing the percent, there is another method that you can use. Like I said, that percent proportion will work every time. But the other thing that you can do that we've already talked about a little bit in this unit, you can take 18 and divide by 90, and that's going to give you 0.2. So I'm just changing a fraction to a decimal. And then from the decimal, you can scoot it over and make that into your percent. Either way is fine. You're going to get the same answer. If you want to stick with the percent proportion every time, that's okay. If you'd rather just quick divide and scoot your decimal over, that's okay too. Let's try another one. 12 is what percent of 40? So two blank fraction bars, equal in between, 100 on the bottom right. I don't know the percent, so I'm going to put an X in the percent spot above 100. I'm starting to talk too fast and stumbling over my words. It's out of 40, so that goes on the bottom. And 12 is what we have. Find the diagonal where you have two numbers to multiply and multiply those. So I'm going to take 12 times 100 and get 1200. And then you hit divided by the other number that you haven't used yet. So I'm going to divide that by 40 and I get 30. So 12 is 30% of 40. And again, the other way that you can find your percent, just take the part divided by the whole. If I do 12 divided by 40, I get 0.3. And then scoot it over to the right, and there's your 30%. So that's what you do if you're missing the percent. The next type is if you're missing the part, you're missing the is, the portion. So I'm going to do two fraction bars, equal in between, 100 on the bottom right. I look for my percent first. This says what number is 85% of 120. So I see that percent sign right away. I'm going to put 85 on top of 100. Then I look for what it's out of, this one's out of 120, but I don't know how much that is. So my variable goes on the top left where that is part is. I'm going to multiply the diagonal where I have both numbers. So I'm going to take 120 times 85. And then I'm going to hit divided by the other number that I haven't done yet. And I end up with 102. I already had a percent, so I wasn't finding a percent. So this is just 102. If you think about it, 85%, that's not too far off from being the whole thing. The whole amount would be 100%, right? So 102 out of 120, that's not too far from being all of it. So I think that makes sense for 85%. The other thing that you can do when you're finding the percent of a number, you can take your percent and make it into a decimal. So you scoot to the left 2 times, and I'm going to call that 0.85. In fraction, decimal, and percent land, the word of means multiply. So you can do 0.85 times 120, and you get 102. I do agree on problems like this that that's faster. A lot of you are probably thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't you just show us that to begin with? The percent proportion will work on all 3 of these types that I'm showing you. That method only works when you've got the percent and you've got the of. So just be careful, be aware that you can't do that on every single type of problem, but that will work when you know the percent and the total. Let's do another one. Percent proportion first, 100 on the bottom right. My percent is 20. That goes on top of 100. It's out of 62, and I don't know how much that is. I'm going to multiply the diagonal where I know both parts, and then I'm going to divide by the other number that I haven't used yet. So I'm going to do 62 times 20, and then when I divide by 100, I end up with 12.4. 20%, that's a lot less than half even. So I need my answer to be quite a bit less than half of 62. So I think 12.4 is a reasonable answer. I would recommend always kind of checking yourself like that, because that'll help you avoid, did you accidentally multiply where you should have divided or something like that. So the other thing you can do, because you've got the percent and you've got the total that it's out of, you can take your 20% and you can scoot back and make that 0.20, and then take that times 62. That'll also give you your 12.4. Okay, so that's when you have the percent and the of. Now I need to show you what happens when you're missing the of. Now this one doesn't have a little shortcut really. I think trying to do a shortcut on this one almost makes it more confusing. I think the percent proportion is so much more straightforward on this, so we're just going to stick with that. So I'm going to right away put 2 fraction bars, equal in the middle, 100 on the bottom right. I look for my percent first because that's the easiest thing to pick out. This one's 48%, so 48 goes on top of 100. I don't know what it's out of, so X goes on the bottom, but 50 is how much I have. Multiply the diagonal where you know both parts. 50 times 100 is 5,000. And then I'm going to divide that by the other number there, which is 48. When I divide by 48, I get 104.16 repeating. I didn't specify how to round on this. So if you want to say about 104 or 104.2, you could round it. That would be okay. They're not always going to come out all nice and neat. I know 48% is just a little bit less than half, and 50 would be just a little bit less than half of 104. So I think that one looks good. Let's do one more. 2 fraction bars, equal in between, 100 on the bottom right. Let's see, I know the percent is 30, so that goes on top of 100. I don't know what it's out of, so I put an X on the bottom, but 48 is how much we have, so 48 goes on top. I'm going to do 48 times 100 and get 4,800. I'm going to hit divided by 30, and I get 160. Let's see, 30% would be less than half. So 48, yeah, that's less than 160. Not a ton less, but enough that 30% would make sense. 160 looks good. Okay, so that's the whole section. The percent proportion will work on all three types. If you're finding the percent of a number, so you know the percent and you know what it's out of, then you can just scoot and multiply. If you know everything except for the percent, then you can divide and scoot to the right to call it a percent. When in doubt, stick with that percent proportion though, because it's going to work on all three types just fine. Let me know if there's anything else I can help you with. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye.